Thank you, Sam. And thank you, Lynn, for the opportunity to speak here tonight. Just want to say a quick hello to all my brothers from the Veterans Transition Program who are here. Thanks for coming out, guys. Now I want to invite everyone to take part in a journey with me. And yes, I'm going to talk about my journey, but I think everyone here will be able to connect to different parts of it. And it's the journey from a boy to a soldier to a man. I grew up not too far from here in Anmore, which is close to Port Moody, which is close to Coquitlam. It was a pretty typical life. I played sports, worked at a paintball field, eventually went to Douglas College, and put my career on hold there to serve in the military. Before I went overseas, I was in high school and I was looking at all my friends and thinking, what am I going to do that's going to make me different, that's going to make me unique? Some were going to universities, some were getting jobs, buying cars. We were all trying to distinguish ourselves, and I found myself at a loss until I found the military. At 16, I joined the British Columbia Regiment, Duke of Connaught's Own, right across the street. With those men and women in the regiment, I learned all about maneuver warfare. I learned about becoming a soldier. And ultimately, I left my family behind, I left my friends behind and school behind, and deployed to Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, I arrived, we engaged the Taliban in glorious combat, and I came home a hero. No, that's not the journey I took. Despite what I saw in the movies and heard from some of the more senior soldiers there, this wasn't what happened. Afghanistan for me was very different. My job there was to guard supply convoys through Kandahar, or from Kandahar Airfield to forward operating bases throughout the Kandahar province. We drove right through Kandahar city itself, and this was one of the most dangerous missions to have in Afghanistan. Suicide bombers were a constant threat. IEDs were littered across the country, not to mention countless minefields and people trying to shoot at you. I imagined that I would meet some of these Taliban and fight them face to face. This wasn't what happened. Instead, we met the Afghan people face to face, developed relationships with them, and the combat we saw was always passing and over in a split second. One day, driving through Kandahar city, I stopped and we were near the Saraposa prison. The prison was embedded, like many prisons are, on the outskirts of the city, but still in the populated area. I looked at all the people going about their day at the market. The next day, I drove through that same area. The Taliban had decided to break out some of their fellow fighters in the prison. They attacked the city on one end while ambushing the prison on the other. To break into the prison, they filled up a water carrier full of explosives and detonated on the wall. It successfully broke down the wall and leveled 3 city blocks at the same time. The people I'd seen the day before were all dead, and this was just one day in Afghanistan. I remember sitting inside the vehicle that day after looking over all the carnage and destruction around me and saying, I just wish I could find one of those bastards and do something about this. I wish I could get out of my vehicle, I could go help rebuild, I could go give first aid, I could go do something. But there was nothing for us to do. Our mission was to guard the supply convoy from point A to point B, and I felt helpless and trapped in that moment. The training went on in Afghanistan, the mission continued, and I was looking for some way to prove myself still. I knew that I wanted to go, I wanted to join the military, and I wanted to become a man. So how would I do this if I was trapped inside a vehicle? My day to be tested did finally come about 3/4 of the way through my tour. My job that day was to guard the front gate of Kandahar Airfield. And as I did that, a person came up on a bicycle, dressed all in black. This is a typical fatigue for the Taliban to dress in. I remember raising up my rifle as they came closer, looking right at them, center of mass, just like we've been trained. They came up to our gate, they passed the first set of signs, they passed right through the big lights that say stop, do not enter, came in right for me. There was one barrier left between me and this person on this bicycle. As my rifle was raised, I pulled the trigger, I felt the slack go out of the rifle, you can hear a click just before the round is released. And as I looked into that person's eyes, I realized they were a kid about 12 years old. In a moment, I froze. The kid turned at the last second and drove back outside our camp. In that moment, I saw myself in the kid's eyes, and I knew if I had pulled that trigger, I would have been killing that boy inside me once and for all, and then I'd finally become a man. Thankfully, I didn't pull that trigger that day, but unfortunately also, I didn't become a man that day. I did become older. My transition from the military coming home, these stories often were going through my mind. Not only was I feeling not fulfilled as a soldier overseas, but now I was feeling something else. I was plagued by these memories. I wish I could have done more. I started what-ifing the scenarios to death. I thought, you know what? If I had just been there a day earlier near the prison, maybe we could have prevented it. Maybe that kid was a Taliban. Maybe I should have pulled the trigger. Maybe then I would feel like a man. These are the things that started coming through my mind. And on the return home, I was introduced to this new concept to me, post-traumatic stress disorder. They said, this is what happens to veterans when they think about these sort of things over and over and over. That didn't quite jive with the way I felt inside. It all changed when I found the Veterans Transition Program, a program developed at UBC by Dr. Marv Westwood and Dr. David Kuhl. It's based in the Faculty of Education, and it brings men and women together who have served overseas, and they get to process through these stories together. You get to learn how to tell your story and make sense of it in your community. In the program, two important things happened for me. One, my strengths and my competencies were recognized. I was valued for all the good things I did in Afghanistan, the help we did bring to that country, while at the same time, I learned to listen to my heart. This is a foreign concept, especially for men, to have this strong cognitive masculine side, but also the sensitive caring side that understands that life's events are going to have an impact on you. By doing this, by putting a balance between my head and my heart, I truly did find out what it meant to be a man back here in Canada. And ironically, I didn't need to kill a Taliban to become a man. Once I balanced those two together, the world started to open up to me. I'm now doing my master's in counseling psychology at UBC. I'm the executive director of the Veterans Transition Network. And also, I'm a strong, competent, and caring man. Thank you very much.